Morning, everybody. Very nice to see everybody on a very special heirloom morning. Heirloom is a green tea from Sichuan. It's the only one that we have in the shop from Sichuan. It's from Emei Mountain. So by the end of this session, and this is going to be a special session, you're going to know several things. The first is you're going to see a demonstration of how they would actually make this tea at the temples in Emei. That's the first thing. The second thing, you're going to know history about them that you had no idea about. Thirdly, you'll taste it is truly remarkable as a green tea. So these three things are the main things we're going to focus on today. So let's start with the maps that I sent you. So for those of you who just got up and just wandering on, I sent you 3 maps this morning. And one of the maps shows sacred mountains. No, that's not right. Sacred Buddhist mountains and actually sacred Taoist mountains in China. Emei Shan, where we are today, is a very important, both sacred Buddhist mountain and what the Taoists would call the 7th sacred cave in China. Yes.
Did you say this tea was manufactured in a temple?
Yes, I did. I did say that. So somebody asked, is this tea processed in a temple? And it absolutely is. And so you might ask, this suggests another question. How in the world do we get access? Am I related to some abbot at a temple? Sadly, the answer is no. However, through the years, I've met many abbots and many leaders of Taoist temples. And this is somebody we know from a long time association, met in another location in China. And this shifts me right away to what happens at Buddhist temples in terms of leaders and in terms of monks. Is it a fluid situation? It absolutely historically has been and continues to be. What does this mean? Really, culture, knowledge, religious, at least Buddhist information travels all over the country because monks travel from place to place. Now, on occasion, an abbot or an abbess will stay at a temple for a huge long time, almost a lifetime. But that's not really the rule. There's lots of movement, and historically, it's always been this way. So Emei Shan, so the first map shows you the 4, and there's a red star by them, the 4 main Buddhist mountains in China. Emei Shan is one, Mount Wutai in Shanxi is another, Cuppa in Sichuan Province is another, and then the last one is Jiuhua in Anhui Province. But we're not talking about those non-Sichuan province, Emei Shan mountain, famous Buddhist mountains. We're really talking about Emei Shan. Emei Shan's a big mountain. And in fact, it's got 4 main mountains. Emei 1, Emei 2, Emei 3, and Emei 4. Not fancy names, but incredible history. This has a Taoist and a Buddhist history. So who were the first settlers? Who were the first sacred settlers? The settlers who established temples. It was the Taoists. And the Taoists did this probably as early as around 25 BC. So why is it that there seems to be a relationship between these beautiful places and the establishment of temples? There's one particular reason that I can point all of us Americans to. Why do we go to Yosemite? Why do we go to Yellowstone? Is it for the bison in Yellowstone? Is it for the deer in Yosemite? Well, those are parts of the reason, but that's not the main reason. There's a feeling when you go to these places. What type of feeling? It's a really good feeling. And it's a feeling that somehow you are communing or you're getting close to nature. Emei Shan, all of these big mountains, famous mountains in China, no exception. When you go to these places, you're overwhelmed by the beauty, the magnificence, the unusualness. And we'll talk about this pertinent to Emei Mountain. So the Buddhists started to come in after 100 AD. And they really got established sometime around 300 AD. Maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later, but not much. That's about the right date. So I ask you this. We have two philosophies, Taoist and Buddhist. Did they coexist? Here, they absolutely coexisted. I'll tell you how close that relationship was. Some of those temples they shared. You had Buddhist on one side of the temple and Taoist on another side of the temple. And so there was cooperation. Does this mean that their philosophies were the same? No, they're not the same, but they're not so dissimilar that they couldn't coexist. And so as these temples started to be built in these spectacular locations in Emei Mountains, you started to have more knowledge around China. Why? Because again, the Buddhist population, and actually as it turns out, the Taoist population was also fluid, and it moved from temple to temple around the country. Hey, you been to Emei Mountain yet? No, what's down there? Oh, there's Buddhist light. Foguan. What's Buddhist light? Well, you stand on this viewing platform and there's clouds underneath you and there's mist all around and the sun from behind creates a rainbow around this gigantic bodhisattva that's been built there. And by the way, pre-400, you weren't talking about that because that bodhisattva wasn't there. But sometime later, after it was built, it was there. And you had this rainbow on occasion under the right atmospheric conditions that was over it like a halo. It was as if the chief Buddha said, hey, let's put a halo over that. You have other atmospheric conditions, just an amazing set of atmospheric conditions where you can be standing on this observation platform and you can wave your hand, and because of the angles of the light, you look out there on the clouds and you see the shadow of your hand waving. Hey, if there are 400 or 500 other people on this platform and they're all waving their hands, do you see a collection of people waving their hands? The answer is no. You only see your shadow. Now, one of you, and in fact, many of you in a minute, is going to ask me a question, so I have to answer it right now. I don't know. So the question is, how is that possible? I truly don't know. But it's been reported from time immemorial. Well, that's a long time. For a long time since I've been familiar with Emei Mountain, I've heard of this phenomena. And when I went there, I was hoping that my shadow would be cast out there on the clouds. Unfortunately, as it turns out in the fine print of the Buddhist sutras, understudies don't get to have their shadow on the clouds. So hence, I never saw that. I never saw Buddha's light either. So I wasn't there at the right time. But it does exist. I've seen pictures of it. I've heard or talked to people who've actually seen it. Xiaobei and I have been to this mountain. It's hideously difficult. You have to work hard, that is, to get to the top. We've done it. Could we do it today? Yeah, we probably could do it today because it's a little easier. They have some lifts and so forth to get you to the top. But it's hard. And this mountain is 10 to 11,000 feet above sea level. So it's got an Arctic, they don't call it that way. They call it a subarctic zone from about 7,500 to the top. 6 months of winter, October through April, hideously cold. Then you have a temperate zone between about 6,000 and 7,500. And then from the foot up to that, you have a moderate zone. And on the plains below, oh my God, it's subtropical, humid. I don't like that type of, so I was just about to say hideous. It's not hideous at all. I just don't like it. Okay, so this gives you part of the picture. What's the rest of the picture? This is 154,000 square kilometers, this mountain. For this small size mountain, this has 10% of all the plant species in China. Now think about that for a moment. That is an amazing percentage. It's got a huge percentage of endangered plants existing only here. Oh, is that all? How about 2,300 different species of animals? Wow, this sounds like enough. That's about all, isn't it? Oh no, there's more. Among herbal medicines produced in China, this has as a central location one of the widest range of productions of rare and common herbal medicines. Some are so rare that the government, state-run organizations control the distribution. Not only do they control the distribution, what else controls the distribution? 20,000 US dollars for a few grams of some of these medicines. That's a lot of money. But these medicines are powerful, very helpful under certain circumstances. So this mountain, now you're starting to get a picture of this mountain. Oh, wait a minute. Did I not forget the most important part? There's tea on this mountain. And it's the tea you're going to have today. So, you know, I could talk for a long time because I have so much I want to say about this mountain. However, we want to do two demonstrations for you today. The first demonstration, you don't have to learn. It's a demonstration to show you what that culture does in the mountains. I'm talking about the temple culture when they drink the tea, how they make it. So that would be the first demonstration. So don't need to study it, just observe it. Then we'll go through the normal demonstration of how to make this tea. You'll make the tea, and then I'll tell you about 10,000 more stories about the mountain, about the tea itself. We're nowhere near finished. We're just beginning. All right, so without further ado, I am going to ask the tea master to give you a temple version of how to make heirloom.
Thank you. 早上好. Good morning. Yeah. So we do, you know, the Emei tea, Emei cha. Okay. first I take the
So the usual, you clean the glasses first, but you notice she's using a different type of glass, very tall. This would be more like what they would use in the mountains.
At what elevation of this mountain is the tea grown?
This tea is,
이체서.
yeah, this tea is grown at about 4,200 feet above sea level. So this is normal. You're used to seeing this. We want clean glasses, no soap stains. So nothing unusual here, aside from the shape of glasses. And, you know, for all of us that are young at heart, looks like we're playing with water, same as usual. So nothing new there. Now, remember that 这个水的温度是低还是
17在那里也是17。
Okay, so they use 175 or so degree water there. And that's why I was just checking. However, this feature is not an accident. Looks like she's playing, but it's not. When you go to tea shops in Chengdu and in Chengdu's in Sichuan, by the way, and other parts of Sichuan, they've got these fancy tea pours and they pour from a very high elevation. This is part of that culture. So they, in effect, although they might not say it this way, they're dissipating the steam. Oh, looks like, I'm not sure what's happening. More water is being drawn. The other cups as well. Again, using that very high pour technique. And by the way, when they come to your tables at a tea shop, you know, this looks like it's high. They pour from about up here. It's incredible. And they don't miss. You know, I keep waiting for them to miss and hit the table and splatter all the officials, but they never miss. And, you know, I try and tell a joke while they're pouring to see, can they keep, you know, it's just like trying to distract the London guards, the Buckingham Palace guards. Very hard. Oh, she didn't take the water out and she's putting the leaves in. Well, that's a little unusual. Remember, this is what they're doing in the temple. This is not what you're learning to do. This is what they're doing in the temple. So we're giving you this demonstration. So for 1 minute. All right.
在那里不用时间。
Yeah, and of course, they don't have timers in the temple. These are Buddhists, so they're using their clocks in their head. But we keep track of time while they're doing this. So it's about a minute. Oh, very beautiful. Very beautiful. Leaves on top, and these are buds, right? This is the highest grade. So you have several grades of this tea. You have buds, you have a bud and leaf, and you have a bud and 2 leaves. Now, if you are an advanced Buddha, do you drink a bud and 2 leaves? Of course not. You drink highest grade. So while this is going, oh no, there's only 12 seconds. I was just about to start into a story, but I cannot do any story in 12 seconds or less. All right, timer is off. What exciting thing. Oh, we're pouring on high again. Wow. And on the side of the cup. Oh my gosh. Looks like a little whirlwind is in there. And she sets for another minute. So one of the things you might ask, and it would be a very appropriate question, would be, why have they developed this format? Part of it is they're looking to achieve a certain flavor outcome. And the flavor outcome is both bitter and sweet. So a little bit bitter at the beginning, sweet at the end. So this is their format for doing that.
So did Xiaobei pour 175-degree water too just now, like you
No.
said?
She didn't. She poured, remember, she seeded the glasses first. And so this cooled down a little bit. So it would have been something like between 170, 175. So it was slightly cooler than the first one. All right, that minute is up. And now she'll separate the leaves, pouring in this tall glass, because remember, that's what they tend to use there. And she sets up for a second pour, which is very interesting because this is not normally the way you would set up. But in China, at these temples, this is what they do. They put a little in because they will consume this fast enough that having a second or an addition of water, they won't brew it long. They'll put the water in, and this will have already established what the flavor is going to be, and they'll pour almost right away. All right, so yeah, so take a look at this color, because that's the first thing you have to remember, because your color, when you do it, is going to be different. And I'm not going to tell you what difference, but again, take a look at this. So from my perspective, I'm looking at this. Oh, yeah. Gosh, this is, huh? Oh, okay. This is pretty yellow. Wow. I wonder if they made a mistake brewing. The answer is, of course not. This is the way they brew it. Now, I'm not going to take a taste of this. Yeah, I will in a little bit. You'll see the second pour. No, you won't see that yet. Oh, looks like a few people are going to get a taste. Wow. I sure hope I've earned a taste this morning. So you notice Tea Master smelt the glass. And you notice she's going to make the second pouring here.
What about the slight bitterness is attractive to them?
Well, philosophically, is everything in life sweet? Remember, these are monks. This isn't the common population. So it's more like a mirroring what life is. There is some bitterness, but if we work hard, we can get to the sweetness. Light and sweet, lightly sweet. Strong initial flavor, which is going to be different than what you get when we show you the standard. So what you just saw was the standard for the temple. But you know, we're Americans and most people aren't in the temple. Do we want any of that? Our life's got to be sweet from day one. So remember, what do they use tea, and why is tea synonymous with Buddhism and Taoism? It's much like the story of Zhuangzi, who said, am I dreaming of a butterfly, or am I butterfly dreaming of Zhuangzi? This is the same relationship that they envision with tea, both the Buddhists and the Taoists. And for the Taoists, for the Buddhists, what are they thinking about? Oh, by the way, this is the demonstration you're watching for yourselves. So this is how you're going to grow. What are they thinking about? I got to meditate. The abbot said, if I fall asleep meditating, this is a fail. And I'm still on that bitter side of life. This tea, or all tea actually, helps you be awake, helps you focus on your meditation. And so this is why it's synonymous. And again, when you're brewing it like she just did, and you have a little bitterness at the beginning, it reminds you of a little bit what life is like. A little bitterness at the beginning, especially as a Buddhist, trying to get through that bitterness, getting up to sweetness. Taoist is no exception. They wouldn't say it that way. They'd say it a different way. But you know what? They wouldn't disagree with what I said. All right, so you notice normal procedure, you heat the cup, you put the 4 grams in there, and then you put the water on the side. You dissipated the steam. Nothing new from your experience of green tea. What's going to be new, though, is the flavor. 2 minutes. Oh, 2 minutes. And the flavor is, oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to tell you the flavor. You're going to tell me the flavor. Is it a 2-minute steeping? Make sure you heat up the recipient cup. All right, part 2. What do you imagine, given what I've said so far, about this tea in terms of its history? Do you think perhaps a long history? The answer would be yes, but there's an important footnote to this. How long has this tea under this name, Juya Qing, how long has this been around? Well, the name was chosen in 1964. And it was chosen by the equivalent of the Secretary of State in China. He and his entourage were visiting this mountain. They were at a temple. The monk served this tea. The head guy, his name Chun Yi, asked, he says, what's the name of this tea? No name. Tea has no name. But I'd be honored, the abbot said to the official, if you would name it. The official is modest and says, hey, you know what? I'm a country boy. I don't do literary things. You know, that's not my province. Oh, but the abbot says, please, we'd be honored. So he named it like a bamboo leaf. This really means like a bamboo leaf. And in the sense of shape is what he was talking about, in the sense that bamboo itself, when you eat it, it gives this light, slightly sweet flavor. This is what he was referring to. All right, so we're going to enter the quality arena, and we're going to try and keep digressions to a minimum because I have so much to tell you. So first off, look at this color. This color is greener than what we saw for the temple. So that's one thing to know. The second thing is we're getting ready to take a quality arena sip. And a quality arena sip is large enough to cover the tongue. It's 175 degree or 170 degree sip. and we're going to start to make judgments. And what sort of judgments are we going to make? We're going to make about mouthfeel, level of astringency, any other feeling that you get from this. You're also going to make a judgment of the feel, of the energetics of the tea and any aftertaste. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm getting some clear indications here. This is different from any other green tea that we have. Let me try this again. Okay, I have a pretty good idea of what I think this tea is, and I just love this color. So it's your turn to go ahead and brew. And you've heated the cups as you normally would. You've dissipated the heat as you normally would. You put in the 4 grams into the cup, and you're going to let that steep for 2 minutes. And now all of you should have finished, and you should be going through a tasting of this and thinking about what you're tasting. And by the way, let me draw your attention to the juxtaposition of last week, which was a raw black called Intensity, close to a green tea, but clearly different than a green tea. It's close.
Now, one of the things that one of the participants noted was that the leaves look really hard, like almost more like she said pine tree leaves, pine needles. I think she's thinking.
Yeah, the leaves do look hard, and this is thanks to the pickers. When they pick the leaf buds, they must guarantee that the leaf buds are full. Sometimes when you pick them, they're hollow. The bud hasn't developed, they throw that away. If it's discolored, they throw it away. And by the way, in order to pick a pound of these, let's see, how many hand motions do you think have to be made to pick a pound? Let me think about 50,000. All right, while you're thinking about this, and it is correct to take some time to think about this because this is a little different than our other green teas. Let's go back to Emei Mountains for a minute. Emei Mountains, this is part of the so-called intangible culture of Emei Mountains. So you remember I said that there's a Buddha, and it's actually a Bodhisattva statue at the top. You get this Buddhist light. And this particular Bodhisattva is, and I'm going to kind of mess up the Indian name, but that's okay. It's Samantabhadra. In Chinese, it would be Pushin. And who was this Bodhisattva? It was an individual who always rode around on a white elephant, 6 tusks. And what is this a speciality of? The speciality is for those who are in practice. Last question, just to get us all on the same page. What's a bodhisattva again? A bodhisattva is either a celestial being or a mortal being like you and me, who has focused on giving up 3 things. Uh-oh, we have to give up something. Greed. Oh, that's pretty easy. I can give up greed. Hatred. Oh no, that's inconvenient. Okay. Ignorance. If you give up those 3 things, you're on the bodhisattva path, whether you're a celestial being or a mere mortal. So These are all part and parcel of this intangible culture. This mountain attracted during the Qing Dynasty, 1635 to 1911, Christianity sects, Islam sects. In addition to, there were Confucian temples up there as well. So again, the beauty of this place, the specialness of this place attracted all sorts of participants from various faiths and philosophies. A really, really special mountain.
Participants observe the steep leaves have a scent that has an element that is hard to describe. Closest word is umami. But it's more than that, he says.
Great start. Umami. So let's think why that has to be true. Remember, I said it's growing high in the mountains. What's the weather like there? All the time. Shrouded in fog. Many times cloudy. And what did we mention before? We said that when it's foggy and cloudy, lower temperatures, amino acids tend not to go through a metabolic process and become polyphenols. So fewer of them become polyphenols. The amino acids have the umami and the sweetness components. Yes.
Somebody else observes, I noticed the leaves are almost like mini green bean pods and so firm too.
Yes. Again, this firmness of leaves, almost like a mini green bean pod, that's characteristic of this. And by the way, the process of this is very complex. We'll go through that quickly a little bit down the road. I want to go more through when this is picked. This is usually picked at the end of February or the early part of March. So again, I ask you, think about this. We're up there at 6,000 feet above sea level, having fun. Are we having fun? No, we're cold. I'm not having fun. And what does this mean? How does this influence the flavor? It again makes it more of this umami-ness, more of this unusual flavor. No other green tea grows in these conditions that we're aware of. Yes.
Another participant observes the heated dry leaves had scents of malt, like sweet warm milk. Pardon me, scrolling here. And then the wet leaves, so that's the heated dry leaves,
Yeah.
malt, sweet warm milk, some florality. But then the wet leaves smell fresh. Lots of aromas that are hard to identify. Then third, the tea liquor is refreshing and soft, and my tongue is coated as if I had some milk.
So love this comment. This is complex, so I'll go through it slowly. The dry leaves that are heated, warm milk, maltiness,
Light florality.
light florality. The wet leaves, very fresh. And the Chinese would love this description. They think of this as fresh and lightly sweet. And then when we get to the tea liquor, this for this particular participant was as if they were drinking warm milk. In other words, its milk has an inherent sweetness, doesn't it? It's got that lactose sweetness. And so this sense of a milkiness is not out of bounds because it does imply fresh. You get really, really good milk. It's both fresh and sweet.
Somebody else says that the tea liquor has a hint of a very clean and light butter, but there's a smooth, light vegetal flavor that is there, but not overpowering.
Clean, light butter sense to the tea liquor with a slight hint of vegetalness, and everybody is searching around, as you should, for all of these very subtle complex flavors, and the Chinese group them under light and fresh because it's also hard for them to pull out one and say, oh, this is it.
Another participant says, the tea seems to have this non-acidic gentleness of a yellow tea, but with a green tea flavor.
Love this comment. This is a deep comment. So a non-acidic sense of flavor, much like a yellow tea. I love that.
Gentleness to it.
I'm sorry, gentleness. I love that comment because yellow tea does, in general, not feel harsh at all as you're drinking it. And yet, from a taste perspective, this is still a green tea, is this commentator's comment. And I like that balanced, very subtle commentary about this. Good job. All right. So this thing is unusual. This thing is really unusual. Unusual when it's picked, unusual for its flavor presentation. And let's go back to that origin story, because that origin story is important. Because I'm going to tell you what this actually is. The origin story tells you that it's probably been around for a long time. It just had no particular name, or every monk had their own name for it. However, the proper way in today's language to describe this tea is it's a small varietal in a localized situation. And China has thousands of those. But this has reached national prominence because of the unusual nature of the flavor and because famous people have come here and had this thing, and it's like, oh my God. And so the other thing that the Chinese would say about this, and this is really important, and I'm going to take this back to terroir. They would say that this is extremely cooling, extremely cooling. Now, I ask you this, Emei Mountain. Where did I say that was again? Oh yeah, Sichuan. You ever had Sichuan food? Hot, nummy. And when you are in a restaurant anywhere in Sichuan and you tell them, like I did the very first time I went, I said, remember, I'm a foreigner. I don't eat hot. You gotta make it not hot. Oh, no problem, no problem. We'll take care of that. Bring a banquet full of plates. I start eating, I'm sweating, it's hot, even though for them, not hot. And over the years, this experience has repeated many, many times. I always go with the hope that maybe not hot will come back with the sense of, oh, I can tolerate this. And I'm always, I don't know why I'm surprised. It's way the heck too hot for me. But as a guest of honor, I gotta eat it. I gotta smile about it. Well, is it a surprise that the tea is cooling? The answer is no. There's a relationship between what they eat in Sichuan and why this tea is beloved. Yes.
More tea observations
Yeah.
from participants. The dry leaves smelled fresh, clean, and sweet. It was something else unrecognizable, but waiting to be revealed, which was evocative. And then once heated, the scent was intoxicatingly bright, fresh, sweet, fragrant like spring flowers. And in between all of that, there are tiny bouts of some distinct aroma of umami. It's just beautiful.
I love this comment because this comment encapsulates from the dry leaves all the way out to the tea liquor and talks really about the complication of understanding this tea. But the pleasantness all the way through, including at the end, umami, sweet, warming, a little bit floral in the smell. You're getting everything within this tea. What did I miss in the smell? There were several things that were
there was
really
so much
good.
going on. So dry leaves, clean and sweet, even
Clean
getting
and sweet.
sweetness off
Yep.
the dry leaves, and then something else unrecognizable, which I think is a theme from some of the other participants that's going on. It is encapsulated with the term umami, but doesn't quite catch it for them. Scent is intoxicatingly bright,
That's
fresh,
right.
sweet, and like spring flowers.
Scent is intoxicatingly bright, sweet, like spring flowers. Love this comment because you have gotten back, and I still sense that as I smell the leaves. It seems to never go away. This one, so let me tie this to what I just told you. This is so connecting to the tongue and the system. This is why this works in Sichuan. This is why this is able to coexist in this atmosphere of extreme spiciness and numbingness of their food. Yeah.
Another taster says, I'm resonating with this tea. I came to this session in a contemplative mood. The story of the mountain, the fog outside is leading me to the place where I feel for the moment very far away from the barbarians.
I love this comment. So the listener came already in a contemplative mood. This further removed the listener into a faraway place, away from the daily humdrum of our lives, and actually, the way he put it, away from the barbarians. And he or she, I don't know. That's great comment. I get that. I truly get that. This one doesn't allow you to not pay attention. It really doesn't. You can't casually drink this tea if you're involved in tea rhythm. You absolutely cannot. It will take your whole attention. Yeah.
Another participant says that she hasn't detected any bitterness in this green tea. Life is sweet this morning, she said.
Life is sweet, no bitterness in this tea. Now, part of that has to do with how we brewed it. So again, the specialty of this shop is we don't generally allow bitterness in the tea, in the brewing of the tea. So we give you and provide rules to avoid that. We showed you how they brew it in the mountains because philosophically, they're at a different starting point than we are here. And we're able to explain why that is. But great comment, love your comment. And this is, it's intoxicating to us also in the sense of how different it is from the other green teas. All right, let's see how I'm doing. As usual, getting close to the line. There is still a lot I could talk about. I think that I'm going to still focus a little bit on the Emei Mountains because that in our minds is truly what's special about this tea because it's got this environment, and the farmers and the monks who produce tea up there have been able to take advantage of this huge range of temperatures and produce just something that's so unusual. They have several different varietals up there. And so apocryphally, no, let's not get to the apocryphal. Let's walk you through the process of how this is made, because I'm sure you'll find this interesting as well. So they pick, and I talked about when they pick, no hollow buds. Got to be hard, got to be uniform color, and the buds themselves must be uniform. You wither, and the way they wither is a little bit different because they do some withering in a cloth, and then they do some frying, and they fry 3 times. And much like Dragonwell. Now, I think I'm going to regret making this comparison, so put an asterisk by this comparison, because Dragonwell, by comparison, is simple compared to this process. Dragonwell, you wither, you fry, and as you're frying, you use hand motions to flatten the leaves, shape the leaves, right? And then you bake. Very simple. This one, you pick, you wither in a cloth, and then you fry 3 times. And each time you're grabbing the leaves in a different way, and you are, they have a term, I'm not even going to translate the term. They have a term, but it essentially means you let go of the leaves and then you reform in your hands. So it's a complicated process that they go through to actually shape these leaves. At the conclusion, and it takes a while for them to do this, they actually do bake to get it down to the right water level. But this is so different from the Dragonwell. It's only the same insofar as one item, and that is where they do the shaping. You know, many times with green tea, when it's shaped, which a lot of them are, it's a discrete step from frying. Not this. This isn't a discrete step from frying, and it's fried several times.
Another tasting comment here. Kay's saying, as she drinks down, the flavors and the mouthfeel broaden and then deepen, and it becomes quite soothing.
Yeah, this is a great comment. The mouth, as you drink down in the cup, same for me, the flavors broaden and deepen, and it becomes very soothing. And I also find this extremely soothing and easy and interesting. You know, I should have said easy, interesting and soothing. It isn't easy, because if you're trying to pick up on all of these flavors, it's complicated.
Why do the leaves float like stalactites?
So why are those leaves not half on the bottom and half on the top in a more aesthetic format? I don't know. The obviously, there is nothing obvious. Simple answer is I don't know. I think with experimentation, I have this feeling that we could make them float, but the flavor probably wouldn't be right, because I believe that has to do with temperature as well as pre-soaking the leaves. When you pre-soak the leaves and you use temperature gradients, you can cause leaves to go up and down. It's just that for your purposes, you know, in trying to achieve the best flavor, you probably wouldn't want to go through that exercise.
Another participant says, definitely cooling energetics, no hot flashes here.
There you go. No hot flashes here. Cooling energetics. This absolutely is cooling energetics. And again, it's truly related to that culture. And I'm talking about the food portion of that culture.
Speaking of which, participant just asked 2 questions. What vintage is this tea, and what food pairing would you suggest?
So this tea came here in, I want to say July, last July. 2/3 of it was promptly stolen in a burglary in August. And so we have very little of it left. And how the criminals decided, well, I know what the thought pattern must have been, because they randomly picked a bag that was sealed and they thought, oh, this will be easy to carry, I won't spill it. And sadly, this one was on the top of the box, and this is what got carried away. So food pairings. So having gone through the exercise that we went through today, normally I wouldn't think of this in quotes as a food pairing. What I would think of it is an after meal pairing. So what type of meal? Do what the people in Sichuan do. And that is you got a heavy, spicy meal. Then you give everybody a little bit of space in between, and then you serve this tea. That I think would be perfect, and it would actually, I think, help people actually go ahead and digest their meal as well. And it would be digestion in a fun way because it would cover the spiciness and the aggressiveness of whatever the meal was. It would be wasted, so to speak, to put this with something very sweet. I wouldn't do that. I think it would be also wasted to actually do this at the exact same time that you're having a meal. This is really postprandial. It's really a post meal, and then you enjoy this with the complexity, and you enjoy this with the cooling effect on everything. Yeah.
What do the monks do with the tea leaves after brewing and drinking? Do they use them for fertilizing or cooking?
So what do the monks do with the tea leaves after brewing? So there's two things that we've seen. This is not an exhaustive list, but they do actually use them as compost. They do pray to them or worship them, so to speak, and sometimes they actually will chew them. So you get this whole range of things, but the worshiping is probably the main thing because they appreciate how special this tea really is. And by the way, there really isn't a lot of this produced.
Participant says the second cup is still very flavorful.
Yeah, the participant notes that, wow, the second cup still has flavor, really good flavor. Absolutely. So remember, whenever you're using a needle tea, you will always, no exceptions, get a great second cup. Sometimes you can eke out a third cup because I ask you this, what does a needle represent? It represents a bunch of immature leaves that haven't opened, but there's power there. Okay, so Heirloom, Emei Mountain, monks, Buddhism, Taoism. You've touched all of those subjects today. I wished we'd had time. I have enough material and enough stories to go a whole nother hour, but I know I'm not going to do that. So don't worry. This isn't the start of that. I really appreciate everybody's thorough comments and really digging into this tea. You've done a great job with that. Yes.
Is this tea available for purchase at the online shop?
No. So the question is, have you conveniently put this in the online shop so that we can all rush and purchase some? And the answer is no. However, you can call here. And there's a reason. After the burglary, we were reduced to, I believe, 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds, something like that. And so it doesn't make sense for us to put something like that on the online shop because there's just not much of it. And I rather reserve it for the regular customers. Now, everybody who's on this broadcast, though, can call me if they want some, and I'll take the order over the phone. But no, it's not available online. All right. I asked you, but we didn't spend time together doing this, to draw a comparison to intensity last week, which was a wonderful raw black. And there are points of comparison. So go back and look at your notes. Think about your notes for this. Make sure you keep good notes for this, because next week we're going to do another great green tea. And I believe we're going to do debonair next week. And it's a brand new green tea. And you're going to get another flavor experience. So your responsibility for this week. Enjoy this. Keep being healthy. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.